With me today is an old friend of mine. He's not actually that old. He's the same age as I am, but he's an old friend from the hills of Arkansas. He's not an implant. I mean, he's from the hills, but he moved off to Egypt for a while and to, well, it wasn't really Egypt. It was Memphis, but he came back to the hills when he was a young man, and today he is with me on Mike the Baptist.
Have you ever noticed that I came from Tennessee to Arkansas, and then you did this opposite thing?
That is kind of odd.
Yeah, it is.
But it's a small planet.
Yeah.
And things like that happen.
But if you're going to go from Arkansas or from Tennessee,
yes,
it's a pretty good transition.
It's not bad. It's not bad.
Yeah. I like it.
It's interesting. Neither one of us got any farther. We just kind of went.
Right. But it's still in the middle.
So anyway.
That's the main thing.
I got to say, before we get too far into this, that Mike the Baptist came from my association with Rick's family.
Yes.
Rick, for years, may lean a little Pentecostal in his religion.
I call myself Baptist.
Baptist-costal, that's a good way to explain it. But anyway, it's kind of
when I'm around you.
When I landed in Tennessee and had my chain jerked, and my life turned around, I wound up in a Baptist church. So Rick, for years, has jokingly called me Mike the Baptist.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it fit. And I love the logo, Mike. I think it's fantastic.
Okay.
Because it's from the origin of Mike the Baptist, the thought.
It is.
From John the Baptist.
It is.
We've got locusts and we've got honey.
Yes.
And I could just see him, that would have been his logo.
Oh, if he had a logo, that could have been it right there.
Yeah, and he'd had it attached to the camel hair.
Well, it would have been stuck there by honey.
Maybe it would. Could they embroider then?
This is already getting off the rails.
Well, you said I could ask questions, but nobody ever does.
Well, you can, yeah. Oh, so let me say before we get too deep in the weeds, there's only a couple of rules here.
Okay.
On Mike the Baptist, and one of them happens to be.
All right.
Nobody's caught on to this yet, but maybe you will. One of them happens to be you can actually ask questions.
Good.
I don't have to be the only one asking questions.
Hey, I like that.
Other people have questions. So anyway, that's one rule. The only other rule is this is a program about being a Christian human in a regular world.
That's a good combination.
Christian human is a good combination. But I've observed over the years that people in churches can get a little churchy.
Oh.
And so churchy sometimes that you can't really understand what they're talking about. Yeah. So my goal is to dumb down the faith so much.
You're so good at dumbing down.
Thank you. That's my goal, is to dumb it down so much that anybody can understand it.
You and I have a gift for dumbing down.
We professionals. Unpaid professionals. So in the event, though, that you get a little out of line on Mike the Baptist, if you get a little too churchy,
I like
you will get buzzed.
That sounds like my tuning for getting ready to sing.
Well, we'll buzz you. So depending on,
I may break out into song when I hear that.
Depending on what you sing.
You remember those tuning fork things?
Yes.
But actually, you blew in them. What are they called? The tuner.
Oh yeah, the little handheld tuner.
Yeah, that's what I hear.
You hear a buzzer instead of a tuner? Well, you're not blowing it exactly right.
No, it's just that's my musical ability.
Okay, Rick. So let's start at the bottom and build our way up.
All right.
So I said you moved to where I'm from.
Why don't we do the beginning?
Well, no, that's birth, and I don't want to go that far.
Okay,
that's too long. So you moved back to the hills from Memphis,
right?
Your family had moved out there. They were in the drywall business.
Yeah. We did a lot of that. My grandfather was kind of one of the first ones to do drywall in that country. He had a job with the CCC group, building the roads out in the forest and that kind of thing. And they had given him a promotion, and so then they sent him to New Jersey, to Fort Dix. Up there to train him to be a foreman for one of the CCC crews. And while he was there, they were offloading and building new barracks in 1936, gearing up for what was to come, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And they brought this product in from England called sheetrock. And he saw that, and he saw the speed of it as to the difference with plastering and that sort of thing. And so he got pretty excited about that, and he just dropped the CCC thing. And so, you'll find out that's what we do. We drop things and do something else.
Exactly.
But he dropped the CCC thing and learned the trade by a group of Italian plasterers that were switching over to sheetrock. And then he went down and grabbed him a group of hillbillies from Big Flat and Cozy Home, and Marshall, over in the area that we were all from. And therefore, the reason that if you go into any subdivision, any place in America and look for an Arkansas tag by sheetrock groups, you will see somebody from Searcy County, Arkansas.
Interesting.
He was the guy. 1936.
Right.
Yeah.
So, 1936. So what were they using before sheetrock?
Plaster.
It was board walls, and then they plastered over it.
Plastered over it.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah.
So, I've lost my place here.
That's all right. And I did a lot of study on that. I found old letters of his, when he found that, because being from where we're from, I remember Derrickson's Lumber now used to be Jack Treat Lumber there in Searcy County. You don't mind if I give references like that, because Jack will send you a check, I'm sure.
I do not mind, especially if there's a check involved, but
don't do a lot of it.
And for anybody that might happen to be listening to this program that's not maybe from a
Small
rural
town
area, Big Flat, Rock Creek, and Cozy Home are towns.
Yes.
Or communities.
Right,
So I just want to clarify that.
Okay,
now,
gotcha.
move ahead. Go.
And you can find them on your GPS. You just got to spell them correctly. Like Cozy Home is spelled COZAHOME.
Instead of cozy.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But it's pronounced,
This be where we're
But
from.
anyway, what I was getting to about Jack Treat and drywall connection
right.
is for years he led the Midwest for sales of screw guns.
Jack Treat did.
Jack Treat
well,
did.
he never told me this.
No, he got all kinds of free cruises and all that kind of stuff. He and Edna, they went all over the country. Milwaukee, they'd bring him up there and say, "How do you sell so many of these?" But it's because of so many drywallers from all over the nation wanted to invest back into the little community by buying a screw gun from Jack Treat. Yeah.
Jack, let me tell you something about Jack.
Yeah.
Since you brought up Jack. Jack had a lumber company and hardware and all that in my hometown.
Right.
For those of you not from my hometown, which is most of you probably, but
Jack
anyway,
Treat Lumber.
Jack Treat Lumber, and smart guy, great businessman, but
Drywaller.
But several years ago, I got word that Jack Treat was going to be on The Price is Right.
Yeah.
Wow. What a thrill.
Yeah.
Here is, you sit and you watch The Price is Right, and it's made out in California where the prices are really high and kind of weird anyway, and people get them so wrong. And, you're sitting back out here, normal folks, you're going, no, and you kind of know. Well, here's good old local Jack Treat, local businessman. He's going to go out there. He never made it up on the stage.
No.
He missed everything. So, Jack, if you're listening, practice.
Yeah.
You need to practice.
Go back, Jack.
Yes, go back and try it again.
Yeah.
And just raise all your prices up to California style. Okay, I'm sorry.
All right.
Where were we?
We were talking about Jack.
We were.
But then when drywall, grandpa, you were back at the bottom of the ladder.
Exactly. Which is why you're here.
I'm a good guess for the bottom of the ladder.
This is why you are here. But
I'm perfect for the bottom rung.
So tell us why this all has anything to do with your background.
Which part?
Well, I think I'm getting at how you landed back in the hills,
back home,
up where you are,
and it was home to us wherever we went. Mom and Dad left in the 50s. They got married in the 50s, and Dad had found a way to make money. That beat 50 cents a day, 40 cents an hour here and there, and that sort of thing. And I think he started out, he told me, like at $3 an hour drywalling in 1958. And he thought that was more money than there was in the world, at the time. And I think the first year he made like $10,000 with his side jobs and things, he and his brother, and $10,000 in 1958. I don't know what that would be today.
Yeah.
I think we could say 20 times, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
10 times.
Maybe 3 or 4, maybe.
Okay.
Something
Well,
like that.
I just thought I was rich. But
Well, you probably were for those times.
It was. But it was changed our lives. But we worked there is the way I was raised. We worked there, but home was cozy home.
Mm-hmm.
And we would just take a hare, Mom and Dad would, and in case some of you don't know what a hare is, that means just the thought would arise, and
Right.
we'd jump in the car and drive. Then it took about 12, 13 hours from Chicago to cozy home, and we'd leave on Friday after day, get paid, and we'd try to get back to where he'd go to work Monday morning.
Right.
And we would do that sometimes twice a month. That's how much home meant to us, to be back home.
Well, I guess anybody from a small rural community, I think, probably can appreciate what you're talking about here about being home.
Mm-hmm. And it was an interesting life, because we started out, in this immigrant workers, if you will, from Arkansas and Chicago. Mm-hmm. And my mom got into property management early. She started running a little apartment project there. It was an old cottage motel. You remember those where you'll see
little
those like on
buildings.
Route 66 and
Little
things
stone buildings a lot of the time.
Right. And what was interesting is everybody that landed there were from Kentucky, Tennessee, Arkansas, and lived in that little project. And
Right.
so we had a little bit of home there too. You could always tell when the new kids came, and the new families,
Right.
because they relieved themselves out with the little trees in the courtyard.
Right.
They didn't use the bathroom inside.
Right.
And so it was interesting, to say the least. And but like I say, home was always cozy home. We from Chicago ended up through a series of events in Memphis in the 60s there, and was raised there until I was 12 years old, and that's when we moved to Arkansas. Mom got a real estate license in Arkansas, and the rest is Mike Jackson history.
Well, I just noticed you. I don't even know why I noticed you. You played sports. I did not.
Well, and I was so pretty.
You were pretty, and I was.
You were all right.
I guess I was fairly okay.
You were okay. Yeah, man, you were fine. But the way I noticed you, because it's your show, so we need to come back to you, right?
Well, I said you can ask questions, so fire away.
The way I noticed you is what was on the 7th grade basketball team.
Okay.
Is how I got to know you that year.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember you weren't on the starting 5.
No.
But you came off the bench with excitement and exuberance. Every time that you came off the bench, if we got in a big lead, here he came.
Aren't you supposed to?
Yeah, and you did. And you led us to great victories. I mean, a lot of times we were winning by 20 points.
No, I finished him off.
That's what I mean. You finished them.
Look,
that's true.
It's always been my theory that you don't want to get a good, comfortable lead and then blow it.
Yeah. Right.
So you need to put somebody in there that can maintain it.
And you had what you did in practice a lot of times to motivate us all.
Yeah.
Is you loved the metal arc half court
I did.
shot.
I loved it.
Now, what was your height then, say in 7th grade?
Probably 5'7".
Yeah, somewhere in there. You took a big spurt, even after you got married, I think you.
I did. Yep.
Kind of a late bloomer.
A little bit late.
But at 5'7",
yeah,
you would heave ho from half court in a little gym that looked like Hoosiers.
Yeah.
The movie.
Yep.
And so when he went in, the whole bench would start. Jackson.
Try to get me to do that metal arc lemon shot.
Jackson. And a lot of times he would heave her up there, and boy, that made our day.
I hate to disappoint.
Yeah, exactly.
So if that's what people are wanting, then
give them what they want.
You can have it.
Yeah.
I don't remember if I ever made any of those, but
one time I think you did.
Did I?
Yeah, I don't remember if it was in practice or in the game, but one time I think he did.
There were lots of things.
But he was willing.
70s, I don't remember.
Well, from about the 7th grade on, I don't remember a lot either.
Yeah, so. It was a different time.
It was.
But anyway, somehow or another, we kind of connected a little bit. I've told people over the years I felt sorry for you because people didn't like you, but so I thought he needs a friend.
Yeah, exactly. But I decided then and there when I saw the Metal Arc hook shot come up with a gym full of people that this was my guy. I had to be friends with this guy.
Well, whatever happened, we wound up kind of connecting.
Yeah.
I'm glad we did. We've had a really good friendship for a lot of years.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those where you can call after 4 or 5 years and just pick up where you left off.
Yeah, and sometimes we'll skip 4 or 5 years.
That just is what it is.
And just take right off.
Nothing personal.
Mm-mm.
It's just
it's
life.
You have stuff happen.
So we did the normal ornery growing up, teenager into young adult stuff.
Was it really normal?
No, but if I say the word normal at all around people I know, it's like I get busted immediately. But for the most part, we did what a lot of young people did.
Yeah.
And then we grew up, started kind of going our own way.
We weren't mean or anything.
No.
But we were ornery.
Ornery is an appropriate word. Mm-hmm. But I went one way, you went another, and you wound up somehow. This was really a shock to me once I heard that you wound up at seminary.
I did.
And I'm going like, well, that was out of left field. Yeah. So how did that happen?
Well, it was an interesting course of events. I like a lot of teenage and young men. I liked the girls.
Oh, well, really?
Yeah, I did.
That's odd.
And one day a lady came in through a whole series of events, and we're not going to go into all that, but she came in a business that I'd started in Lafayette, Louisiana. I was 22 years old. Mm-hmm. And she was coming in from the telephone company, which was an oddity then, that the lady was coming in to set up the phones in my warehouse that we had. And she was everything in a girl that I liked at that time. Mm-hmm. And so I immediately started doing my thing, trying to put my move on the love doctor, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it fell pretty flat because she said, listen, you're not what I need, and I'm not what you need. She said, I've had you, and you've probably had me. Mm-hmm. Boy, that brought it home, really quick. And she said, I have found Jesus Christ, and that's what you need.
Huh.
And I thought, I'm going to drop this really quick.
And you were how old here?
I was 22 years old.
22. Okay. All right.
And so she did something crazy. She left there. She hooked up the phones and she left, and I dropped my lines, and all that. Mm-hmm. And then I talked to her later, and she went off and started praying for me.
Interesting.
So I called my grandmother and asked her to pray for me. And I told her, I said, Granny, I feel like I'm going to die. Huh. And then I hung up. And so then I called my other grandmother on the other end of the party line and told her the same thing and hung up. Now, can you imagine your grandson calling you and say, I feel like I'm going to die, and hang up?
Is this Grandma Clock?
Yeah, Grandma Clock
Maple?
Was the second one. That was Meemaw. Remember, I called her Meemaw.
Yeah, okay.
And she began to pray. Both of them did. And then I called my mom, and I happened to catch her and told her the same thing. And she, of course, panicked when I hung up, and she kept trying to call me back. Mm-hmm. And like I say, I really felt like, Mike, that I was dying, on the inside. And I guess I was, when it comes down to it. Mm-hmm. And so I went back into the warehouse and got away from the phones, and I felt so empty inside, so dead inside. Mm-hmm. I don't want to use any churchy terms.
No, because I've got my hand over here very close.
I knew you were ready.
Yes.
And so I wanted to get someplace that mimicked what I was feeling inside, and we had a little warehouse bathroom that the guys used, when they came in, that were the sheetrock deliverers and all that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And that's where I knelt down
Mm-hmm.
and began to pray a little bit. And about that time, my uncle came in, my Uncle Dan,
Mm-hmm.
and he was a Christian. And he had a real encounter with Christ early. That probably should have been Buzz. But
Well, hang on.
all right.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
you're right.
He
Encounter with
he had
Christ.
he had become a Christian.
Okay, gotcha.
And so I said, I don't know what's going on with me, and told him what was going on with me. And he said, well, let me pray with you. And together, we came to the Lord. I did.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how that all happened.
Okay,
And
so
then soon after, I felt the
easy.
I know I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to say this.
Yeah.
I didn't feel.
You know the word call will get you buzzed.
Yeah,
So
I know that's.
you felt the urge,
Yeah,
the prompting.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I saw myself as becoming a preacher.
Okay, all right.
You like that
Yeah,
better?
yeah.
Okay. And,
I think it's okay just to say I thought I might want to, because I think in the Bible I recall some people in the Bible saying, I think I'll go do this.
yeah. And what was neat about it is I didn't know a lot about the Bible. You know that.
Yeah, right. I did know that.
Yeah. And so, but I did have one at my home. And
Right.
when I got back at my home, this word came across my mind,
Mm-hmm.
Ephesians.
Okay,
Now,
good word.
Yeah, but I
Good book.
didn't know what that was, but it sounded biblical.
Uh-huh.
And so,
Well, it was. That's why
yeah.
it sounded that way.
So I went to looking to see if it was a book
Yep.
in the Bible, and I couldn't find it because there wasn't EFF, in there. Ephesians.
Exactly. I was a little behind you on that.
Yeah.
one.
And then when I found the book and figured that out, it came to me 3:18, just crossed my mind.
Okay.
And so I turned over there to it, and it says, unto the least of these,
Mm-hmm.
am I called to be a preacher of the gospel of Jesus Christ to the Gentiles.
And you immediately associated
I
with
went, ding.
being the least of
Yes.
these.
Oh, yeah, I'm good at the least of these. I mean, on the outside, I'm a huge of these, but on the inside, I'm the least of these. I'm a 5-year-old.
So long story short, this all led you to Missouri to
Did.
a seminary,
Yeah.
which is where we're going to start when we come back. We're going
Okay.
to take a little quick break and breathe for a second. And, man, if we had some food, we'd eat, because I know we both are eaters, so, but
Yeah.
we don't. So we'll do that after a while.
I feel a call. I didn't say it. I didn't say
Do a
it.
call to brisket. We'll be right back. We're just Christians trying not to cuss.
Yeah.
This land is your land is my land.
Slap some bacon on a biscuit and let's go. We're burning daylight.
If you like a little meat with your vegetables, then you might like our sister podcast, Our Land with Michael Jackson. It's a podcast for freedom-loving, liberty-chasing, common-sensed Christian Americans who still believe that good can and will prevail in the struggle to survive in today's crazy society. It's a little bit politics, a little bit social commentary, and a whole lot not woke. Just search for Our Land with Michael Jackson on your favorite podcast app, or you can subscribe to get the podcast and read our posts at ourland.substack.com. Our Land is a member of Our Land Media Group, the America in the Middle.
This land was made for you and me.
We're back with my guest, Rick Watts, from back out in the hills of Arkansas. And we had gotten up to the point in your world where you wound up at seminary. And I don't know. What do you want to tell us about
Yeah,
that?
there's a little bit more backstory there. There was a vision that was involved, a dream that came of I could see a gate,
Uh-huh.
and behind this gate I could see buildings, trees, that kind of thing. But it's vague.
You were in the Walmart parking lot.
May have been. Actually, I was somewhere.
Have you ever been
between
around back of a
Houston and
Walmart?
Lafayette.
Have you ever been
motel.
around back of a Walmart?
Yeah.
Because you can always, there's
I like to explore everything.
there's always a fence,
Uh-huh.
a drainage thing, and
Right.
some trees.
There is.
Maybe an interstate. I'm sorry, I didn't mean
But
to interrupt you there.
It wasn't really like that. It was like the Gipper movie. You know where he went to the place of higher learning there at Notre Dame?
I don't remember watching it. So.
Well, anyway, it was more like that, but it was vague and foggy. And
so you
but
thought
there was this gate.
You felt like you saw yourself there.
Yeah, and it to me it represented higher learning.
Okay. Gotcha.
And so I had the opportunity to go to college out of high school, but I knew that I would have blown it. You know, I told Mom, I said, I'm just going to be wasting your money.
You mean like I did?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, that's kind of what I did.
But anyway, so I called Mom again, long distance, and I told her about this gate, and she said, well, you know, let's go find it.
Mm-hmm.
And so we jumped in the Lincoln.
Mm-hmm.
You remember the Lincoln?
I remember the Lincoln. Mark V.
Yeah, with little diamond chips in the porthole windows. But anyway, so we headed to places of higher learning in ministry, looking for the gate.
Okay.
And we went to Oral Roberts University, and we went to Rhema Bible Training Center, and we went to several other places.
Mm-hmm.
We even went to Dallas to the theological seminary there,
right.
and no gate.
Okay.
And so I go back to Louisiana, and I have a new pastor. This is just a matter of months after the gal, you know, witnessed to me. Mm-hmm. Is that a buzz? I was just checking. I would have buzzed that.
No.
Okay. But anyway, and so no gate, but I went to my pastor and was telling him about it. And he said, well, have you considered Springfield, Missouri? At that time, the Assemblies of God, they didn't have a seminary, but they had one particular college, Bible college, that was set aside for ministerial training.
What was it called?
Central Bible College.
Central Bible College.
And it had 4 majors. There was music, Bible, missions, and Christian education. That was it.
Okay.
But it was all patterned for ministry. That's when it was a seminary, but it just wasn't called that at the time, because in our particular movements and things, we don't like to use terms like other people do.
Movement being the Assembly of God.
Yeah,
the background
they didn't want to call it a denomination. They want to call it a movement. You see what I mean?
Yeah, I don't care what they call it.
I don't either. It's the same thing, you know.
Gotcha.
That's some of that churchy talk that you're talking about.
Hey, wait a minute. Let's just buzz all of them.
Yeah, just buzz all of them and get that out of the way.
That's a buzz for the titles.
It is, because I don't like those titles.
Carry on.
Okay.
No, I don't. Carry on.
So anyway, so I go there, and I feel this peace while I'm there, but no gate.
Okay.
But I just felt like that's where I was supposed to be.
Okay.
And so I'll go there, and I spend 3.5 years and get ready. I'm within 6 weeks of graduating, and guess what they built at the corner of Norton and Grand?
Probably put a gate in over there.
They did, and it looked exactly like that, the buildings, and I'd never seen it before.
And it wasn't a Walmart.
And it wasn't a Walmart.
Gotcha.
And so it just taught me a little lesson, you know, God's got this. Let's just trust him.
Probably a pretty good lesson there.
And walk in that peace. It's a good thing. You know, if you got a lot of turmoil going on, not good. And probably not him.
Probably not him. That's maybe been my experience. I mean, even very recently. Yeah. Kind of hard to let go of things yourself sometimes. Just kind of just get up every day on a new planet and understand that, you know, you might be taken care of if you get out of your own way.
And, you know,
possibly.
I can remember first time I saw you after all that and things. You may not remember this, but I was in Harrison and I'd gone there and I'd become a youth and children's pastor. Yep. There.
Yeah. I remember seeing you.
You remember me at a gas pump?
No, but I remember going to your house once or twice.
Okay. Well, this particular time, I think, was the first time that we had an encounter after all that.
Yep.
And
I was probably dodging you a little bit at that
you
point.
were, but if you remember, I was in clown makeup.
I don't remember that, but I don't doubt it.
It was the first day of a ministry that we called Super Church, you know, where we gathered up kids from all over town.
Okay.
And I was in clown makeup, and it was my first encounter with my best friend from high school as a Christian.
who at that point said, "Hey, looks like you're doing good for yourself."
Yeah. And you were happy to see me like
Schooling
that.
really paid off there for
Been
you.
to seminary, huh?
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, that was funny.
And
I do remember. I don't remember the clown stuff, but I do remember you were living in an apartment, wasn't it? Right close to the golf course, because I think a friend of mine, Jimmy Don Parks, and I might
he
have
lived
met
there
up
in
to
that town.
golf.
Yeah.
And that might have been a byproduct of being close to there. I can't remember if those two were combined.
Yeah,
or
they
if-
were. I think I saw you guys that day after you played around or something.
It seems like maybe that's
Think
correct,
so.
but
It seemed like we had lunch or something.
I don't know. When you get our age, all this kind of blends together. But it's okay.
Let me ask you a question. You said I can ask a
Okay,
question.
all right.
The
Certainly.
dodging comment.
Oh yeah.
May wanted to dodge you a little bit.
Well, yeah.
Talk about that a little bit.
Well, everybody knows what that's about when you are kind of living for yourself, so to speak, and you haven't been wrapped up in all this religious stuff where you hadn't given your life to anything.
Yeah. Buzz yourself.
I'm sorry, self, but when you haven't really sold out to that,
But
but
it's
you're
right.
not, yeah. So anybody you come across like that, who is sold out and they're knee deep,
Mm-hmm.
way into it all. Anybody who's being honest can say that during that time when you weren't and they were, you kind of, maybe you didn't dodge them, but you kind of kept a little distance and made sure the conversation never got very personal.
Yeah, that's right.
So I was probably kind of in that vein at that time. I probably
But
was.
it wasn't long till you came and sold out.
Well, yeah, no, it wasn't long.
Mm-mm.
I think it was about 96,
Yeah.
somewhere in there. It took me a little while. I'm a hard sell. Always been a rebel. And so I was, pretty much of a rebel there for a while, but no more.
Yeah, I know.
That doesn't pay off very.
And from
very
this
good.
end of the no more, when it happened
Yeah.
to my friend,
Yeah.
it was one of the greatest things that could ever happen.
Don't get too
I
churchy
won't.
here now.
I won't.
mean,
But it was inside
Yeah.
of here.
well,
to see
yeah.
to see the same light that had come on
yes.
inside of here, come on inside over there.
And I understand that nowadays. It's pretty thrilling, actually, to when you get involved in this stuff yourself, if you're not careful, you can become a hermit.
Yeah.
You can become this overly spiritual hermit
Mm-hmm.
who's actually not very much good to anybody but yourself.
Yeah.
And these two are also people, when you get in that people will dodge
Yeah.
for a different reason.
Yeah, and it's a pretty good one
So,
because
but yeah, so
you
it's
come
good to see.
self-absorbed.
Yeah, it's good to see down the road when that clicks in somebody, because you know what's coming. You know there's gonna be a little period of confusion for a while about why you're not suddenly a millionaire. Weren't you supposed to be suddenly a millionaire?
Yeah, everything's supposed to
And-
prosper.
Yeah, and why the
Somewhere Star Trek gets in it. Live long and prosper.
I think that's exactly right. So, but it's nice to know that what's coming down the road for anybody after they themselves get knee deep in it and begin to understand what it's really all about, how good that's going to be for them.
Yeah.
So
it is.
yeah, I see what you're saying.
And so that was thrilling.
Yeah.
And I, in the profession that I decided to go into,
Yep.
that I felt that I was supposed to do,
Right. Oh, good catch right there.
did good. I've had many occasions to see that light come on,
Yep.
but when it's somebody that you've lived life with since the 7th grade,
Yeah,
it's pretty special.
I can
It's
see
pretty
that.
special.
It is. So, okay, long story short again, too late
Okay.
with the two of us here.
Gotcha.
But this is like telephone calls that we have on Saturday mornings once in a while.
Yeah.
They start out, hey, how you doing? What's up? And then it winds up way
over.
in there somewhere.
Yeah.
But although I will say safely we're a little more reserved than some of those phone calls. But Okay, so we have marched you all the way from landing back in the Ozarks to going through your young years, and then you turn into a preacher. And then something happens, right? Not long after you got into this
I had
business.
this grandeur of great things and ambition in the profession that I was beginning to
Doesn't everybody?
find myself. You know, I was in my 20s, and you know, in a little town of Harrison, Arkansas, there's at that time about 10,000 people, and we were having from 5 to sometimes 700, as many as 700 kids a week coming to the little church there. And so you get a reputation within your group of people, and you start getting phone calls and job opportunities and all those things, just like if you worked at IBM.
Yeah, there's a job there to it. So
There is.
part of it's a job.
And there's some ambition to it, and there's some corruption that comes in it that happens that I just thought I could see that in the drywall business, but I couldn't understand it happening in the church business.
How that could ever happen in that kind of business. So it sounds like what happened is you took a pastorate job somewhere.
Yeah.
I can say, I'm not going to buzz pastorate because I don't think that word's in the Bible, is it?
No, it's
pastorate.
Not that one. There is a interpretation that comes out as pastor.
Yes. So I'm not going to buzz
And
either one of those.
And
because
he gave pastors and apostles. And
easy. Yeah, because you're going to get verbatim here in a minute. I'm going to hit you with it.
I know.
So anyway, we're going to take another quick break, but when we come back, we're going to talk about you being pretty sick for a few years. And
I was sick inside because of that corruption stuff, but also then physically.
Yeah, that's what I want to get to.
Right.
So I want to get to the physical part of what happened to you.
Gotcha.
We'll be back in a minute. We're just Christians trying not to cuss. So you were having a pain like in your left side. Okay. And so what happened from there?
That and the cycles of fever and flu-like symptoms. And so I finally went to a doctor, and I was in a college town, a real liberal town, and found a doctor that wasn't really high on preachers. And so he thought I was nuts. And so he gave me some anti-anxiety medications and things like that, because he could not find the origin of the pain. You know, they scanned and did and looked, and I remember one thing, he thought he found it once because there was a shadow on some
On a
image
scan or something?
on a scan of my colon.
Yeah.
And then he found out that my colon was spasming or something in there.
We don't need any more details.
Okay, I won't go any further than that.
Thanks.
I figured you'd buzz that, even though it wasn't.
I was thinking about it, but I'd rather just move on.
But anyway, so I was nuts, you know,
Right.
preacher that's off the deep end.
Right.
And so I took some of those medications, you know, trying to do what the doctor says, and you know, interesting things and side effects. I learned about side effects
From the medication.
Yeah.
So this
You know,
this probably hammered you even more.
It
on
did.
Top of it.
It did, and it gave you that I don't really care, you know, mentality,
Right.
where you don't feel anymore. That's rough on a Pentecostal boy, you know.
Yeah, I can see where I can see where that would cause an issue.
It was, and
yeah, I can see where that would be
but also it was, you know, like you said, the hills and the valleys. Sometimes we go through these things to where we can relate
right,
a little bit of what other folks are going through.
right,
And so I was able to see, I would have liked to have done it a lot different, you know, in the relation. I'd rather interview people and talk to them about what this is like than to go for it for myself.
right.
And then for the pain, they would mix in hydrocodone, different kind of pain medications. And that's a pretty tough little cocktail when you start mixing those together.
I see where this is headed right here. Yeah.
And then I'm self-examining all the time within myself as a Christian.
Right.
And so the mind starts playing games,
right,
and things, and you begin to wonder, yeah, maybe I am crazy, you know. And and so I got to where I couldn't function and feel like I was doing a good job as a pastor.
right.
So I resigned the church that I was in. Now I'm 29 years old. No, I'm 31 years old here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I got to get this straight. But I'm still young and looking for a great future and things. And so I have this thing that's developed. But inside of me, Mike, at the same time, I was praying to get out of the system that I was talking about in ministry.
Right.
But I was okay. But I was trying to. I just wasn't fulfilled in that either.
Right.
And then this physical stuff started showing up.
So I recall, seems like I came through Missouri one time. I don't know where I had been out roaming around to, but it seemed like I came through Missouri one time and was just going to stop in and see you, but you were down so bad you couldn't even have company.
Yeah.
You know, this is a good music publisher friend of mine named Bob Millsap. I met him.
He dealt with this
in the 80s. He had the same thing. I would go to see him. He was in Branson when I first got to know him. He later moved to Texas and back to Nashville for a little while. But I would go to see him. I would travel where he was once in a while to see him. And just as I was getting there, I would find out from somebody in his circle that
it's not a good
he
time.
couldn't even get out of the bed.
Yeah.
So
there were days that I, couldn't comb my hair.
Yeah.
Couldn't brush my teeth. I mean, my teeth are an absolute miracle that I still have them because it was just tough. And my wife put everything aside and took care of me through it. And it was just a little period of time. It only lasted about 20 years.
20 years. So this went on for 20 years.
Just 20 years.
Wow. I got to ask you, without us getting too boring talking about it here,
right.
I'm trying to figure out a way to pump this back up and get it exciting,
Yeah.
People.
Well, there's a lot of people going through this stuff, like you're talking about. You've run into different ones, but there are a lot of people that have things like this happen.
So how many years down were you exactly? How long were you down?
Down. Like I say, it went in cycles.
Right.
And you might see me another time when you came through and you'd say, man, you look great. I remember different friends would see me out when I was feeling better, when one of the cycles had broken, and I'd go through 3 weeks or 4 weeks and be out of it. It's just amazing, the return. Like the doctors tell me today that worked with me through this whole process. Number one, you shouldn't be alive with the amount of medications that I took. Number two, that I'm even have a functioning body from laying bedfast
for so long,
for periods, like I did. Several things like that happened. So it was a 20-year period, but it wasn't that I was down the whole 20 years.
Right.
It got to, at the worst points, I think it was like nine weeks that I was in the bed and never got out of the bed.
That's a long time.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
But then I started getting better. You want to get to that now, or?
I am.
Okay.
I am, because it's like I can remember just calling you one time, and it's like you'd been out doing things that you hadn't been doing before, and I was going like, well, something happened here. So you got over it.
Yeah. And it was a God thing. I really believe that. But it was you mentioned hills and valleys. I was in a deep valley, but man, I learned so much in there.
Well, isn't that where you learn stuff?
Learn it. But
that's where you get smarter.
I still don't want to go to another one.
Yeah.
Right. But I also know that now, if there is another one, which there will be, that I made it out of that one with his help. Yeah,
and isn't it funny how that kind of, when the next one comes along, kind of makes you think, well, maybe I'll get out of that one too.
And as we read this book that we believe in, we see that there's these examples of folks that got out of that one.
Yeah. Well, isn't that interesting how that all?
Yeah.
It's just coincidence.
Yeah, right.
So interesting how that all. You're well now.
Yeah.
Seems like you're pretty well. And so a few years ago, I hear that you're going to do a radio show. And I'm thinking, I come from a radio background.
Yeah.
And I started actually at the same station you are working with now. I started when I was a young man, dabbling in this whole radio idea. And now I've been kind of around the zoo and back. And so you have your man in the middle cap on. Let's see. I have one of me here. I have my man in the middle.
I like it.
This is Rick's radio program. You can listen to Rick on Saturday mornings at 8:00 on kcgsam.com. Is that correct?
kcgsradio.com.
kcgsradio.com. If you miss the live program, it turns into a podcast after it's over.
Yeah.
So you can listen to his program. He has an interesting mix of local people, or regional people, and who knows who else shows up there. But it's a pretty interesting conversation.
Well, and when that came about, and I began to think about that, and that was during the Valley time. I got to listen to a lot of radio, watch a lot of television.
Right.
And so the idea came, and in my mind, I thought of you and I doing it together.
Yep.
And I approached you for that.
Yep.
That the man in the middle's not me, and it wouldn't be you. The man in the middle's the guy who occupied the middle cross.
Exactly.
And he's interested in everybody, and he's interested in everybody's life to the point that he laid down his to take up and cause us to be able to come to God. And so it's a wonderful concept, the man in the middle.
Oh yeah, great.
And I know that this is developed over 12 years that we're sitting down with each other.
Yeah.
Here. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, you've been after me for a long time to do that, but
Well, you're such a natural. I think you're doing great, and I know I see great things on the horizon. I hope to ride your coattails a little bit with it too.
We'll see what happens. I've seen a lot of great things on the horizon before,
I have too.
and then I've driven a different way.
Yeah, and I've dropped off the cliff.
Yeah, but
Thelma Louise.
So I'm in real estate, and I have this slogan I use. I'm number 2 because everybody else claims to be number 1. I stole that from your mother, Nancy Bell, because she had a successful real estate company.
She stole it from somebody.
She stole it from somebody else. So when you came out with your program, Man in the Middle, the idea that struck me so deep in my head. Of course, I began scheming out here on my own. I think we had a few conversations about how we could do something together, but the logistics, we're 8 hours away from each other. So the logistics has kind of kept it from...
the technology wasn't there then.
Not exactly, but, since Zoom happened.
Yeah.
Since the pandemic, epidemic.
And what made Zoom so great? Pretty good valley. COVID.
It did. But anyway, I won't go into...
another one of those
I
weird
about dipped
diseases.
into the Hourland political process there, but that's a different topic.
Yeah, but that's a good one too. And I noticed that you, in part of that, one is the Hourland. I see it come up over here on those little screen.
Yeah.
It's Middle America.
It's America in the Middle.
America in the Middle. Yeah, that's good. I like that.
Yeah, because I'm not political, but I'm politically observant, and there are so many things happening nowadays in the world that.
And let me ask you this:
a lot of people don't pay attention, and this is one thing I may want to talk to you briefly about for a second.
Okay.
Because we're transitioning in your world from getting well, and now you're off into these new ventures. So I don't want to start getting too overly political, but there's a political aspect to your world. We live in America.
Yeah.
And politics and the business of politics affects your life.
It does.
I am so bewildered, Rick, about why so many Christian people say, I don't want to get involved in politics. I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to deal with that.
It's a lie from the pit. But
Well, yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
I know what you're saying here.
And it's to keep us out of the arena.
So you feel like there's some other force
I do.
that is causing the good Christian folks that we all know and love to say, I don't want anything to do with politics.
Because what it is it's uncomfortable for us. Anything that's uncomfortable for us, we like to find our own comfort zone.
I'll go with that. I would agree with that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the good news is, if you go back to the book, he sent this comforter to take us into these uncomfortable places, to where we could have that peace that we talked about going into those places. I know.
Yeah, you're getting too churchy.
Okay, I got you.
Here's the question.
All right, go.
Why are so many of us ignoring what's going on in the political arena when it affects us as Christians so precisely? I do not understand that. I will say that I was guilty for a number of years myself of not paying attention to all that.
Mm-hmm.
But once I started paying attention to it a few years ago and realized what is happening to us,
right,
it caused me to come out of a shell where I was, I've always been involved in something that has to do with entertainment or creativity. And in the past, I was always very cautious about trying to ride the middle. I didn't want to publicly say one way or the other what I was thinking about.
Yeah, you didn't want to alienate the audience.
No, because I wanted money from everybody.
Absolutely.
Which, that never happened, but I didn't want to offend anybody.
Right.
But as I began to watch what's going on in the world, what's really happening, and how the people that we put in charge of steering the ship for us, how far they were getting away from what we need,
right,
and settling into this little world of what they need, regardless of how it affected us. Once I really kind of got a picture of that and what was actually taking place, I felt like I can't sit back anymore if I see this and know it and understand that there are people who aren't paying attention to it.
Yeah.
Understandably, if you're making your living, you got your family, life is fine, you're going to the lake once in a while, you're eating okay.
Comfortable.
If you're comfortable, I can understand how you would say, I don't want anything interrupting that.
Why would I get into that mess?
But here's what happens. Any way you look at it, the messes that other people are getting us into, it may not affect us today.
Oh, but it does.
But here before very long, it affects you in a really bad way, and it's too late then.
Yeah, I know.
When the whole time, it just seems to me so obvious that if enough Christian people got together and showed up to talk about these things, oppose some of these things that are happening in the world, it would stop some of that. It wouldn't stop all of it, but it would stop some of it. Am I wrong?
No, you're right. And
thanks.
And the simplicity of it is, we use that term, you'll buzz me here, call, but the need is the call. The call is the need.
Okay.
And so we have a need to enter into that realm. I know me personally, I've thrown my hat in the ring locally in a little position called Justice of the Peace in our in our area, but it's quorum court.
Right.
That's what it is, and it's like the little Congress that controls the purse strings of the county in which I live in.
Right.
And if you want to get to the core of the situation, you go to where the money is and how the money is distributed.
Yep. Some things never change.
No, they don't. And I figured I'd been approached by some to go into a more statewide position in politics and things. And I told this one leader in the community, I said, well, I don't trust myself. And he said, what do you mean? I said, I don't know, if there's a lot of zeros involved from where my bottom line is, and I don't want to be tempted in that area until I see how bad it is.
Yeah.
And so I've thrown in locally in the grassroots, And I think we need to do more of that. I know I was challenged to do that.
It all counts.
It does.
It all
It
counts.
does.
And it all counts, and it all, it festers and grows from local all the way up. But, it also festers and grows when you're doing the good things. The corruption festers and grows, but the other festers, I think they call it grassroots. When the grassroots kicks in,
It does, and the book calls it grace roots.
So perhaps I know you Pentecostal folks, Rick the Pentecostal. I know that you folks like movements and that sort of things, right? Move of this and move of that.
Feel of this.
Yes,
We like a lot of feel. We like the goosebumps.
Perhaps it's time for a move of just regular old Christian folks to be involved in the political side of what's going on in our country, not in a bad way. I mean, we're not fighting people.
No, to put some good in it.
It's all for good.
Yeah.
It's not confusing. It's not complicated, but, we were just talking about this in my church over the last weekend
what a coincidence.
It's all coincidence. All this stuff's coincidence. Oh, but what if? Well, let's just say, what if there's a law about to be passed? It's being talked about in D.C.
Yeah,
that is obviously wrong. Let's say, like, maybe letting dudes.
I can't believe you go that far.
Let's say, like, letting dudes swim in women's sports. Let's say
there you go.
Let's say your National Congress was about to pass a law that says that's okay.
It's okay as long as he's not a real good dude swimmer.
Well, okay, but you get the point. Yeah. But here's my point. In the past, it seems like all of us good Christian folks might have just sat back, and we're trying to be, what our understanding is of being a nice, passive, calm Christian. We don't want to offend nobody. We don't want to stir no trouble up. We just want, but what we've done over the years seems like maybe we've kind of let some of that slide by us, and then we have to deal with it.
Yeah.
But then we're left with a dilemma once again. We're supposed to be these nice, polite folks, but we're having to deal with something that's so absurd.
Now, you should be buzzing like crazy right here, because we're not supposed to be those nice, polite folks.
That's what I'm getting to.
Right.
What if all of us people who believe a certain way about things like that, and there are a lot of us, way more than there are.
There are.
What if all of us decided we're just going to show up on the steps of this place where we've got these people inside representing us to make a law like that? Now, you cannot tell me that they would go ahead and do that.
No, they
if
wouldn't.
All of those people were standing outside the door saying, we don't really think that's right.
Well, they did a little practice session of it to try to discourage us from doing something like that, back in January.
They did, and
that was a whole drummed up deal, to get us to not do that.
It appears to be that way.
It does to me. I called, I think it was several years ago. I said, what about, just in Arkansas, if we took the deer season off?
Wow.
Where we love to go deer hunting, love to sit, and let's go to D.C. and camp. Take deer camp to D.C.
Yeah.
There's 300,000 of us that go to the woods in Arkansas. Now think about that. 3 million people in a state. 300,000 of us go to the woods in Arkansas.
I see where you're going, but you're going to have to pick otter season or something, because the deer hunters are not going to leave deer season.
Yeah, but it's just a thought. This is just a thought. And it might, they may pick otter season, and that's fine.
Right.
But say 300,000 folks from Arkansas, and how many folks hunt deer in Tennessee?
A lot.
Yeah. And just Michigan.
Yep.
And some of these kind of places.
Yeah.
And just wear camo. We don't have to take our guns. You don't need your gun.
No, you don't.
Just wear your camo, maybe take your own firewood and build a little fire and sit around and say, don't care for this law.
Well, that's my point.
I know.
I can't help but think it would make things different.
I think it would. You've seen with the truckers, they've tried to do something, but what does the the storyline gets killed in the narrative of media.
Well,
And
it does.
And that's why you're getting into what you're getting into, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
And like I said, I don't want to go too far, but
Yeah.
but the question, the question remains. The real question I'm asking you,
Yeah.
and this is the whole point of where I've been trying to lead to with you.
Gotcha.
You're a regular guy that went through a lot of the things a lot of other people go through. You've been through some valleys, et cetera, and that whole story. But now you find yourself in a rural area in northwest Arkansas.
Thank God.
What do you do as a Christian man in that setting to make any kind of a difference or try to help somebody else maybe see the light that you have seen and are still seeing? What do you do? I mean, I'm trying to get outside the walls of the church here.
That's what I've done. That's what I'm doing.
Well, tell me what you're doing and what you're going to do in your world.
What I'm finding, Mike, is these avenues of opportunity that are in what we in the church so many times calls the secular world, but it's just the world. I know.
Yeah,
I had to throw it in.
I know,
but I'm setting something up. But it's just the world, and be what we are supposed to be, which is to make a difference. Did we lose camera?
Nope.
Oh, okay. And to make a difference.
Okay.
And so, like what I'm doing now is, I mentioned I'm getting into the political realm to make a difference in the grassroots level, to bring the light that is in me into those places. It's not me, it's the light. And opportunities opened up for the school system through some horrible things that happened in our school system there, in the little school system that we graduated from, where someone was involved in a horrible situation. And the superintendent said through a series of events, said, "Can you do something to help?" And I said, "Sure." And so from that became an opportunity to go into the school systems that now has opened up to where there's 23 superintendents in the state of Arkansas that's wanting a character coach like I am on these campuses. And that came into something that just has blossomed into Fellowship of Christian Athletes has got behind it. University of Arkansas has got behind it. They now have 9 character coaches at the University of Arkansas. Conway University of Central Arkansas is asking us to come in. And pretty much the whole state of Arkansas in the educational system is asking for a character coach who is displaying the characteristics of Christ, is what the character is that the character coach brings to these systems. And it's not got a thing to do with a church.
Right. Nothing to do with a church, but it's got everything to do with the church, which is people.
That's it.
So, we're going to do another program with you while you're here somewhere in the middle of America at a non-disclosed location high above Honey Run Creek.
Yeah.
We're going to do another one with you while you're here about your involvement when you were a youth pastor. There's this kid named Brandon Burlsworth that showed up, and they've since made a very good movie about Brandon, et cetera, et cetera. And you have
I brought you one
movie called Greater. Very interesting story. I would invite anybody listening to this to Google Brandon Burlsworth and then the movie Greater, and study up on that between now and whenever the Brandon Burlsworth episode of Mike the Baptist shows, because we're going to be filming that while you're here and talking about what a great story.
It is.
Great story. But you were his youth pastor.
Yeah, children and youth.
Yep. So we're going to have another episode of that. But anyway, in this crazy world, you've made this big circle, and now you're right back with all your gained experiences.
Yeah, and still a youth pastor. And you know what's great about being 62 years old?
Oh, it's not the non-working parts. I know that.
No, it's not that. The greatest part of being 62 years old is that it's easier to find youth to pastor.
True that. Yep, because the see from 55 down now is kind of like a youth.
Yeah.
50 down.
Exactly. And I can't tell them apart from 30 on down. They all look 15.
So here's the deal. You've got your radio program, which you
right, man the middle.
Continuing with. You're working with these schools now.
Right.
Is it kind of like FCA in a way, but it's
they've partnered with the Burlsworth Foundation is what it is. We developed this program, but I had no idea that they were developing a character coach program at the same time.
Well, let's save that.
Coincidence.
Yeah, we'll talk about that more detailed on the other Burlsworth episode.
Yeah, gotcha.
So you got those two things going.
Right.
And what else you got going?
The political, getting involved in the grassroots things.
Right.
And then another door that's opening up in a prayer movement that's going across the nation. You've probably heard of the President's Prayer Breakfast.
Yes.
Well, there's 50 governors out here that are sending a delegation to Little Rock, Arkansas, and talking about bringing prayer into every state house in the United States.
So from all over the country, governors are coming to Arkansas to meet and talk about
God and praying, and we need some help.
Interesting.
It is.
I told everybody that's God's country.
It is.
So,
but Little Rock, Arkansas,
he's bringing them to Arkansas.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So, I don't know if we've covered everything or not, but I just want to get a glimpse of who you are, where the name Mike the Baptist came from. Your mother, by the way, Nancy Bell, was perhaps one of the closest people I've ever met to having the same kind of mind that is rattling around inside my own skull.
That's a scary thing.
It's a scary thing, but
it's a good thing.
Yeah, I considered her a great friend too.
Yeah,
but I considered her too.
You were one of her babies, is the way she felt. You were. You know, you will not inherit any of her stuff.
Well, I was waiting on that,
but she considered you as a jewel.
Well, I did her too. So anyway, that's where a lot of my craziness comes from, is that similar kind of mindset. So, and we both were tasked with taking care of you from time to time.
Right, and that might have been what drew me to the friendship.
Could be. Okay, well, I've enjoyed the visit, and I don't know if we've covered what we need to cover, but I don't really care. You know me. I don't wear a watch. I don't care what time it is.
We can do another one.
Yeah. I don't, we've probably said enough nonsense. If anybody made this far into this, then
good for them.
They're with us anyway.
They're our kind of people.
We're going to take a break, and we're going to come back with the newest segment of Mike the Baptist called Any or Outie, and you are going to be a contestant coming up on that right
This ought to be fun.
Yes.
Yes.
We just Christians
try not to cuss.
This land is your land is my land.
Slap some bacon on a biscuit and let's go. We're burning daylight.
If you like a little meat with your vegetables, then you might like our sister podcast, Our Land with Michael Jackson. It's a podcast for freedom-loving, liberty-chasing, common-sensed Christian Americans who still believe that good can and will prevail in the struggle to survive in today's crazy society. It's a little bit politics, a little bit social commentary, and a whole lot not woke. Just search for Our Land with Michael Jackson on your favorite podcast app, or you can subscribe to get the podcast and read our posts at ourland.substack.com. Our Land is a member of Our Land Media Group, the America in the Middle.
This land was made for you and me.
Hey everybody, it's time to play America's almost favoriteest new game show, Any or Outie, where we challenge our guests to figure out if a phrase we give them is actually in the Bible or out of the Bible. Sharpen your wits, guest. You're about to be in the hot seat of Bible stuff, because you're the next contestant on Any or Outie. Here's Mike.
Well, this is going to be an exciting edition of Any or Outie. our new game show segment here on Mike the Baptist.
Boy, what did I win? What did I win?
Actually, we don't keep score.
Oh.
I'm calling it a game show portion, but we're not keeping score. But now I will send you a printed coffee mug of Mike the Baptist when they get printed.
Okay, good. Will it have the logo?
It will. I'm waiting to see if I maintain an audience. If I maintain an audience, then I'll have a reason to keep doing this. Yeah. But otherwise, I'm not going to make the mugs just so people will have them to say, well, that never worked.
It's like the man in the middle hat. I think I asked the guy how many I had to order to get them for free because it kept going down.
Oh, yeah? What did he say?
And it's taken me 40 years to pass them out.
I know how that works.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, okay. So anyway, Rick, in case you're not familiar, you probably are.
Yeah,
but
kind of bring me up to date on any and outy.
Okay. Well,
my mind goes places, but I don't want to.
Everybody's does, and this is marketing. This is why you do stuff like this. Exactly. So I'm going to give you a series of phrases, scriptures, that sort of thing.
Okay.
And there's a lot of things that people say nowadays in the world, and I have always have, that you kind of wonder, is that in the Bible or is that out of the Bible? Yeah. So therefore, any or outy. So
gotcha.
I'm going to give you the phrase.
All right.
It is your task to tell us and the audience your best guess. Is that an any or an outy? Is it in the Bible or out?
The odds. I've got a 50-50 shot here.
Well, see, this is going to be good because you went to school for this.
Well, yeah, but it could be bad because
it could really be embarrassing for you.
The school did close.
The school closed. Yeah. School went out of business. Okay, here we go. Here's number one. Mm-hmm. Now, you won't hear this because through the magic of editing, there'll be suspenseful game show music behind you later.
But I am hearing it. That's your issue. So here we go. We don't have a full studio audience, but we do have Mrs. Watch. Lanita is back in the background. Say hi because we can see you back there. So it's your task to clap with me if he gets it right or if he gets it wrong. So here we go. Here's number one. All right, number one. Any.
Nope. It's too early.
Okay, got it.
Okay. I will plant cedars in the desert, acacias, myrtles, and muscadines. Is that in the Bible or out of the Bible? Now, I don't want you just to answer it. I want you to talk it out because it's more entertaining when people aimlessly just ramble what's going on in their head rather than just... So, here, let me give it to you again. I will plant cedars in the desert, acacias, myrtles, and muscadines.
Yeah, speaking of the desert blooming.
Okay.
Of Israel's, what we see happening there today, is that enough for
you're getting so deep now. I mean,
any.
Do what now?
Any.
You're saying this is an any?
Any. Mm-hmm.
Now, talk it all the way through before you say that.
All right.
I want to give you a fighting chance.
Okay, so it's an outie.
Let me read it to you again. I will plant cedars in the desert, acacias, myrtles, and muscadines.
Boy, it sounds biblical, except for the muscadine.
There you go. So you're saying it's an
outie.
He's right. It's an outie. That's right. So it was the muscadines.
You had to do the way that they had to do in Bible school. The teacher had to come over and say, like Miss Fenton Smith used to do with us. Well, you know this, honey. You really know this.
Well, see, the Arkansas came out of you right there because I purposefully put something that just seemed pretty common. So
I got it, but it took a while, and you had to coach me through it.
Okay, I was originally going to write Fig Newtons, which would have been too obvious.
That would have been
so
more on my level.
You're 1 for 1.
Okay, gotcha.
Here's number 2.
Outie.
Oh, by the way, that was Isaiah 41:19 for you Bible thumpers.
Yeah,
we were keeping up with that. Here's number 2.
Okay.
When pride comes, disgrace follows. But with humility comes wisdom. Now, take your time, talk it out. Is that in the Bible or out of the Bible? Is that an any, Rick, or is that an outie?
Well, mine goes to when pride cometh before destruction.
Okay.
And a haughty spirit before the fall.
Okay. So is this a translation thing? You know what? I didn't consider this before, but I use the hardcore Southern Baptist, which is the Holman Christian Standard Bible, for some of these. You might be using a different translation, so this is interesting right here. I hadn't ran into this before. Let me read this translation again.
Okay.
When pride comes, disgrace follows, but with humility comes wisdom.
Well, that sounds Baptisty.
Well, it just sounds, let me look it back up here.
You know, I like the King James Version better, but
Well, yeah, that's, you Pentecost do that, so.
yeah, I know. Well, it's so much more harsh, you know.
Well, yeah, and you want harshness in your religion. I mean,
Don't you think it's more harsh, babe?
well, here, since there's our different translations,
Right.
does that sound like it was in there?
Yeah, it does.
You're right, it's an innie. It's an innie. Okay, all right.
All right, good.
You're 2 for 2
All right, 2 for 2
with an assist.
with a help. Much help.
Here's number 3. I say then, walk by the Spirit, and you will not carry out the insanities of vanities. All right,
this
talk
is gonna
it out.
this is going to be one of those translations things again.
Well,
walk
this
not
one-
after the
This one shouldn't
Spirit,
have to have
but
any-
after.
Yeah, this one shouldn't have anything
Walk
to do with
not after the
translation.
flesh, but after the Spirit.
I say then, walk by the Spirit, and you will not carry out the insanities of vanities.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, talk it out. Is that an innie or an outie?
The precept and the translation of it would be an any,
Okay, but
but I don't recognize it as an any.
well, there may be a reason you don't recognize it.
Because it's an outie.
Well, yeah, I don't even know what your answer was.
Yeah, I don't either.
Well, it don't really matter. We're not keeping score, but I will say that is an outie.
Okay.
And here's why. Because the actual scripture,
That's what I was.
that's Galatians 5:16, says, you will not carry out the desires of the flesh. And I put in insanities of vanities.
Yeah, but that's.
I thought that
that's
would
not
tip you
bad.
off pretty good.
Well, I know, but insanities of vanities is a lot of the desires of the flesh.
That's true, but most of these people that sat in a cave and wrote these scriptures wasn't real sing-songy. So I was trying to make that.
Yeah, but you know, there may be a song in that. The insanities of the vanities.
Did you get it right or wrong?
I don't know, but I was in there.
What a great contestant.
You bet.
All right. I don't know what the score is now, but I don't even care anymore. Here's number 4, our final question on any or outie. And thanks for being such a...
This is for the mug.
This is for the mug. We're going for the mug right here.
Here we go.
Here we go.
Squirrel.
But know this, difficult times will come in the last 6 days. Now, talk it out, Rick. Do not rush. Do not rush. This is very important. These are scriptures from the Holy Bible.
Well, 6 just makes me feel.
Well,
Especially when you put 2 more with it.
now that could be indigestion. So,
Could be.
you know, that's one thing Baptists sit around and wonder about Pentecostals sometimes.
6
Are they
is
just having
really-
indigestion, or is that...
You know, 6 is really the loneliest number.
And then the Pentecostals are sitting around looking at Baptists saying, can they just eat anything and not feel bad?
Yeah.
So, I don't know what all that meant, but okay. Let me read it to you one more time. But know this, difficult times will come in the last 6 days.
Howdy.
He's right!
I get the mug. I get the
Wasn't it
mug.
great? You got the mug, and thank you for playing along.
I get the mug.
And,
Oh, wow. What a great contestant and a fine sport today on Innie or Outie, America's almost favorite new game show. Study up, future guest people. You're next in the hot seat for Innie or Outie.
we are going to take one more break and come back, and because I follow the church model so closely,
All right.
we're going to do so on this program as well, and we're going to sing a hymn to close it out. We're not going to stand because I have a thing about why can't church people sing sitting down. I don't understand that.
I don't either.
I'm still struggling with that, but you know, I know there's a wind diaphragm thing that singers do, but I can do it sitting down. But anyway, we're going to sing a hymn to close it out.
I'm kind of into Gregorian chants now.
Okay. We'll have to talk about that later on. We'll be back in a minute. We're just Christians trying not to cuss.
There you go.
We're back. This has been fun. I thought it would be. And,
thank you. I've enjoyed it.
What the audience listening or watching may not know is this actually took 8 hours because of technical difficulties and cameras going off. And
if you're good, they'll never know.
yeah, so here's one of the most spiritual guys I know, and he shows up and all the equipment went haywire.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
Well,
don't know why that happened, but it did. Hey, look, here on Mike the Baptist, in accordance with the doctrines of churches all over the world and how they operate, and cannot have church without singing,
singing.
then we're going to stick with that model, and we're going to sing a hymn together. It's just us. We are the choir.
Okay.
And if you're at home and you've got the Mike the Baptist hymnal, turn to page 168, and you'll find this hymn. Most of the hymns that I do on Mike the Baptist are going to be from the 70s, and this one is no exception. So we'll end with this right here and sing it as a congregation, and then we'll wrap this one up and move on to the next time.
All right.
Well, I'm a standing on a corner in Winslow, Arizona, such a fine sight to see. It's a girl, my lord, in a flatbed Ford, slowing down and take a look at me. Take it easy, take it easy. Don't let the sound of your own wheels make you crazy. Come on, baby, don't say maybe. I gotta know if your sweet love is gonna save me.
We like the Eagles, don't we?
We do. Thanks, Rick and Lonita.
You bet. Thank you for having us.
It's been fun. See you next
has.
time on Mike the Baptist. We're just Christians trying not to cuss.
There you go.
Mike the Baptist.